If I told you you've been doing it wrong your whole life, would you believe me? Watching people spend a fortune on complex solar generator systems with massive batteries they don't know how to maintain, when they haven't even thought about what happens when those batteries eventually die. Look, I've been living and experimenting with this off-grid stuff for years, and the biggest mistake I see people make is overcomplicating everything. What if the power went out right now and never came back on? For most, that means the silence is quickly replaced by the realization that every single thing they rely on is gone. The truth is, the grid is more fragile than they want you to believe. But here's the thing. You don't need the grid or even batteries to thrive. For generations, people got by with ingenuity. Today, we can combine that old-school wisdom with some modern tech to create a new breed of survival tools. Today, I'm going to show you 10 ingenious devices that run on free energy from the sun or a little bit of elbow grease, keeping you going when the grid goes down for good. These aren't just gadgets. They're declarations of independence. They are your key to turning a crisis into an inconvenience. Let's get into it. Number 1, the solar water pump. First up is something that solves one of the first, most critical problems you'll face. Water. I learned this lesson the hard way a few years back during a multi-day outage. It wasn't the dark that was the problem, it was the silence of my well pump. Suddenly your taps run dry, and you're staring at a pond or a rain barrel, realizing you have to haul every single gallon by hand. It's back-breaking, soul-crushing work. The solution is remarkably simple. A 12-volt DC water pump, powered directly by a solar panel. This is the definition of a battery-free system. No charge controller, no heavy batteries. It's a direct relationship. Sun shines, pump works. It's elegant, and that simplicity is its biggest strength. Here's the secret, though, and don't skip this part. You can't just wire the panel to the pump. That's a rookie mistake. Solar panel voltage is wild. It can spike and fry your 12-volt pump motor in a heartbeat. The little piece of magic that makes this work is a DC to DC buck converter. It's a cheap, tiny device that goes between the panel and the pump and bucks that crazy voltage down to a steady, safe 12 volts. This is non-negotiable if you want your pump to last. Imagine it's a sunny afternoon after the power's gone. You need to water your garden, your main food source now. You just put your panel in the sun, drop the pump in your rain barrel, and water is flowing. No carrying buckets. You can use this for irrigation, transferring water, a makeshift shower, you name it. I have a setup just like this for my garden, and here's a pro tip. I oversized the panel. I use a 100-watt panel for a pump that only needs about 36 watts. This means even on partly cloudy days, I'm getting enough power to get the job done. No grid, no batteries, no problem. Number 2. The solar DC fan. The next thing that will make you absolutely miserable in an outage, especially in summer, is the heat. Not just the heat, but that thick, stagnant, suffocating air in your house. No AC, no ceiling fans. It's draining, and it can even be dangerous. The solution, again, is beautifully simple. A 12-volt DC fan running directly off a solar panel. Here's why this is so smart. It's a naturally self-regulating system. When is the sun the most intense? When it's hottest outside. That's exactly when your panel is producing the most power and when your fan will be spinning the fastest. The setup is identical in principle to the pump. You take a solar panel, run it through a buck converter to get a stable 12 volts, and wire that to a standard DC fan. You can get these anywhere they're used in cars and RVs. Pro tip, mount one in a window to create a cross breeze. Pull cool air in from the shaded side of the house and push the hot air out the other. You can put one in your workshop or attic to vent that superheated air. I have a small 12-volt fan mounted on a piece of plywood that I can move around as needed. On a hot day, I'll put the panel outside my office window and set the fan on my desk. It's not the icy blast of an air conditioner, but it's the difference between being functional and just sitting in a pool of your own sweat. It costs nothing to run, and that little bit of comfort and morale is priceless in a crisis. Number 3, the solar LED lighting system. When night falls in a grid-down world, it gets dark. I mean, profoundly dark. In a way most people have never experienced. Your flashlights run out of batteries, your candles burn down, and that's when the fear can really set in. This brings us to our third battery-free setup, a direct solar-powered LED lighting system. Now I know what you're thinking. What's the use of lights that only work during the day? Stay with me. Because this is about being strategic. This isn't for lighting your bedroom at midnight. This is for illuminating the dark corners of your home during the day. Think about your basement, a windowless bathroom, your pantry, or workshop. These areas become useless black holes in an outage, even when it's sunny out. With this system, you run a string of high-efficiency 12-volt LED tape along the ceiling. As long as the sun is out, your basement workshop is brightly and safely lit. It lets you organize, make repairs, or plan things without fumbling with a headlamp. The principle is the same one we've established. A small solar panel, maybe 20 or 30 watts, wired into a buck converter set to 12 volts, which then powers the LED strips. The buck converter is critical here because LEDs are extremely sensitive. Direct wiring them will kill them instantly. I have this exact system in my tool shed. A small panel on the roof, a buck converter, and 2 strips of LEDs inside. From sunup to sundown, the shed is perfectly lit. It costs nothing and requires zero maintenance. It's about using the daylight hours to their fullest, and that's just smart prepping. Number 4. The solar USB charging station. In a modern crisis, losing communication is almost as bad as losing power. Our smartphones are our maps, our encyclopedias, our link to the outside world. When that screen goes dark, you're information blind. Power banks are great, but they're a temporary fix. Once they're depleted, they're just bricks. This is where our 4th device comes in, and it's probably the cheapest and most impactful DIY project on this list: a battery-free direct solar USB charging station. The construction is brilliantly simple. You take a small solar panel, even a 10-watt model will work, and connect it to a buck converter that's specifically made with a USB output. These things are dirt cheap. Their only job is to take that wild solar voltage and tame it down to the precise, stable 5 volts that USB requires. And I mean precise. Plugging your $1,000 smartphone directly into a raw solar panel is a guaranteed way to fry it. I've seen people try. It's not pretty. Once it's set up, it's intuitive. Panel in the sun, plug your phone into the converter's USB port. That's it. Now, you have to manage your expectations. This isn't for binge-watching shows. This is for survival. It's for getting enough power into your phone to send a critical text, download an offline map, or check a weather broadcast. I keep a 20-watt panel and a USB buck converter in my go bag. It's lightweight, and it gives me confidence knowing I'll never be truly disconnected as long as I can see the Sunday. Number 5. The solar electric cooker with thermal storage. There are few things more comforting in a crisis than a hot meal. It's not just calories, it's a massive morale booster. But without gas or electricity, cooking is a challenge. Burning wood is an option, but it's messy, consumes tons of fuel, and the smoke is a giant billboard advertising your location. This brings us to a truly ingenious piece of tech, but I'll be honest, this is a bit more of a niche or DIY setup. This is not your typical solar oven. This is a solar electric cooker that uses the principle of thermal mass to store heat, not electricity. That distinction is a game changer. Here's the concept. A solar panel, say 100 watts, is wired directly to a resistive heating element, like the coil in an electric kettle. That element is built into a super-insulated cooking vessel, like a giant thermos or a purpose-built crock pot. All day, the solar panel generates electricity that powers the element, which steadily heats the pot and the food. The extreme insulation traps that heat with incredible efficiency. The result is a solar-powered slow cooker. You prep a stew in the morning, and by midday, it's at cooking temperature. It will cook all afternoon, and because of that thermal retention, it will stay hot enough to serve a hot meal long after sunset. You're storing the sun's energy as heat. It's incredibly efficient because every watt generated goes directly into creating and storing that heat. It's a higher-level approach to off-grid living, but it means a hot meal is waiting for you, powered by nothing but free energy from the sky. Number 6. The hand crank emergency radio and flashlight. While we're focused on solar, we can't talk about being battery-free without mentioning the absolute classic of emergency preparedness, the hand crank radio. In any disaster, information is gold. Is help coming? Which areas are affected? The internet will be down, and cell towers will be overloaded. Your only reliable source of mass communication will be AM divided by FM, and most importantly, the NOAA weather radio bands. This is where the hand crank radio proves its timeless worth. These things are the ultimate embodiment of elbow grease power. They need no sun, no fuel, and no external batteries. A few minutes of cranking gives you 15 to 30 minutes of radio or a surprising amount of light from the built-in flashlight. The ability to make power on demand, in any condition day or night, rain or shine, makes this device absolutely non-negotiable. Modern emergency radios are true survival multi-tools. Most good ones have multiple power options, a small solar panel, the hand crank, and a built-in battery you can charge beforehand. But that crank is the core feature. Even if the internal battery is totally dead, you can still generate power. They're also packed with other features. The flashlight is usually more than enough to get around a dark house. Many have an SOS alarm to signal for help, and crucially, they almost all have a USB port. You won't fully charge a phone with it, but you can crank long enough to get enough power for a critical call or text. I have one in my house, one in my car, and one in my bug-out bag. It's triple redundancy. When all else fails, this will still work. Number 7. The solar thermal water heater. We've talked about moving water, but what about heating it? In a long-term grid-down world, the lack of hot water becomes a serious issue for hygiene. Cold showers are demoralizing, but more importantly, hot water is critical for washing hands, cleaning utensils, and preventing disease. Trying to heat every pot of water over a fire is a full-time, fuel-intensive job. The answer is to use the sun, but in a different way. Here's what you have to understand. This is a solar thermal heater. We are not using photovoltaic solar panels to make electricity to heat water that's incredibly inefficient. Instead, we're using a solar thermal collector to directly capture the sun's heat times and transfer it into water. It's a passive, non-electric process. Think of it like a garden hose left in the sun, but on steroids. There are two main types: flat panel collectors and, the more efficient type, evacuated tube collectors. These look like a row of glass tubes. Each tube is like a thermos, with a dark coating that absorbs heat and a vacuum that provides insane insulation. They work surprisingly well even on cold, sunny days. The principle is simple. Cold water circulates through the collector either with a tiny solar pump or passively through thermosiphoning and absorbs intense heat. That hot water is then stored in a heavily insulated tank, which can keep water hot overnight. This gives you a reservoir of hot water for washing and cleaning without using a single watt of electricity or a stick of firewood. It's a bigger project for sure, but the payoff in quality of life and health is immeasurable. Number 8. The solar oven. We've discussed the solar electric cooker, but now let's turn to its simpler cousin, the classic solar oven. This device is the epitome of low-tech elegance. No wiring, no electronics, no moving parts. It just has one job: capture sunlight and concentrate it to cook food. A solar oven works on 3 basic principles. First, concentration. Shiny reflector panels act like mirrors to focus sunlight onto the cooking area. Second, absorption. The cooking chamber is black, and you use dark, thin-walled pots to absorb as much heat as possible. Third, and most importantly, retention. A glass lid creates a greenhouse effect, trapping the heat inside an insulated box. The results are astonishing. A good solar oven can easily reach 350 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to bake bread, roast meats, and boil water for purification. And because the heat is so gentle and even, it's almost impossible to burn food. It acts like a slow cooker. I want you to imagine being days into an outage, eating cold canned goods. Now, you mix up some bread dough, put it in your solar oven, and a few hours later, you're pulling out a perfectly baked, hot loaf of bread. The psychological impact of that is huge. It's a return to normalcy. The solar oven is a silent, smokeless, fuel-free kitchen that will work as long as the sun shines. Number 9. Manual kitchen powerhouse gadgets. So far, we've focused on the Sunday, but there's another source of battery-free power that is 100% reliable, 24/7 in any weather: you. Human power is the ultimate off-grid energy source, and modern manual gadgets can keep your house running with surprising efficiency. Let's start with food prep. No electric blender? The answer is a hand crank blender. The good ones are robust and will pulverize fruits and veggies with a bit of effort. It's a great workout and the result is just as good. Next, coffee. I've said it before, whole beans are the only beans to stockpile. A high-quality manual burr grinder is the solution for turning them into fresh coffee. The simple ritual of grinding your own coffee in the morning can be a real anchor in a chaotic world. But let's think bigger. What about grain? If you're storing wheat berries, which last for decades, you need a way to turn them into flour. A manual grain mill that clamps to your counter is a survival powerhouse. With some work, you can make fresh flour, unlocking a massive store of long-term food. Finally, the most hated chore, laundry. Washing clothes in a bucket is miserable. Enter the manual washing machine. These devices are often a sealed drum with a hand crank, or even a simple plunger agitator for a 5-gallon bucket. Use a fraction of the water and get clothes remarkably clean in minutes. It turns an all-day chore into a manageable task. Each of these devices proves that with the right tools and a little effort, a comfortable life is totally possible without the grid. Number 10. The Smart Direct Solar Power System. We've talked about powering individual devices, but what if you want to run multiple items and squeeze every last drop of power from your panels? This brings us to our final and most advanced concept, creating a smart direct solar power system using an MPPT controller. MPPT stands for Maximum Power Point Tracking. In plain English, it's like an intelligent transmission between your panels and your devices. It constantly analyzes the power coming from the panels and adjusts the load to harvest the absolute maximum amount of energy possible at any given moment. No watts are wasted. Now, here's how you can use this in a battery-free way, but listen up. This is an advanced setup and requires you to know what you're doing. You connect your solar array to the MPPT controller, but you connect your DC appliances directly to the load terminals, with no battery in the system. You have to go into the controller's settings and configure it properly, because most are designed to charge batteries. The benefit is that you run your DC loads at their peak efficiency all day. Let's go back to our water pump. With a simple buck converter, the pump just runs. With an MPPT controller, the controller is constantly sweeping and finding the sweet spot of voltage and current to get the absolute most work out of that pump with the available sunlight. This setup is ideal for a dedicated daytime system, like a workshop where you want to run a fan, lights, and maybe a small DC motor. When the sun goes down, the system shuts off. No batteries to maintain, no risk of over-discharge. This is the pinnacle of battery-free solar design, showing you can build a system that is a sophisticated power solution, not just a crude backup. So there you have it. 10 incredible devices and systems that provide light, water, communication, food, and comfort, all without relying on the fragile power grid or even on batteries. From the simple reliability of a hand crank to the smart efficiency of an MPPT controller, these tools prove that self-reliance is not a fantasy, it's a choice. The common thread here is a philosophy of resilience. It's about moving from a state of dependence to independence. Owning these devices is about more than just a backup plan. It's about building real security for you and your family. It's about knowing that when the lights go out for everyone else, yours can stay on. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this was empowering. True preparedness starts with knowledge and ends with action. Now, I want to hear from you. Let's learn from each other. What essential battery-free items did I miss? What's your number one go-to gadget for when the grid goes down? Share your expertise in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want more in-depth guides on preparedness, hit that like button, subscribe, and check out this other video on my channel that I think you'll find just as useful. Stay safe, stay prepared, and we'll see you in the next video.